Welcome again to Back Garden Bushcraft and the next in our series on knots. So this is a group of knots known as bends, which are knots that are used for joining together two pieces of rope or cord. And the knots will have different uses, and some knots are going to be more effective than others depending on the type of rope that you're trying to tie them with. A lot of the art or manufactured ropes these days are nylon based, so they're a lot more slippery, so you need a far more secure knot. And also, if you're trying to tie two ropes of different thicknesses, a different knot again will be required. Okay, so to make it easy with the bends, because we're using to tie two different pieces of rope together, I'll use two different coloured cords just so it's easier to see. So the first is the reef knot, which is a useful knot for joining two pieces of cord of equal thickness and similar materials. And it's a nice easy one. So you take your right hand cord, you cross it over the left, you tuck it behind. You then take the left hand cord, you cross it over the right hand, tuck it behind and through. So that gives you your reef knot, which is the knot that's shown on the scout badges. You pull them up, you have to hold all four ends, you need to pull them up equally, otherwise the knot will skid. On this nylon material, these knots are a little bit slippery anyway. They're not really a good knot for heavy loads. And to undo them, they're really easy to undo. If you grip the two sides and you literally just push, the two halves of the knot will open up. An alternative knot then is the fisherman's knot. So again, we'll start with the right hand cord. We lay it alongside the left, and what we're going to do is we're going to tie an overhand knot in it. We then, on the opposite side, take what was the left hand cord and we tie an overhand knot in that one, and then the two will pull up together, and as you pull them tight they lock. My preference for these knots is actually to use double overhand knots. They give a little bit more grip, the finish is a little bit neater. So again, using the right hand cord, we lay it over the left and we go around and put a double overhand knot. So we go through the loop once, come back round through the loop twice, gives a nicer, neater barrel type knot. Go to the other side, form the loop, go through once, go through twice, tighten knots up, as I said before, keep them nice and neat. A neat knot is a strong knot. Also a lot easier to untie. Now these will then pull up. The advantage as well of using the double overhand is that the two short ends coming out of it run almost parallel. These knots will tighten up really tight. They don't skid, even on artificial materials. So if you need to, you can cut the ends of these knots really short without them worrying about them coming undone. They do, however, lock very tight and can be difficult to undo. That's why I haven't pulled this one up very tight today. So we're just going to work the knot loose. There we go. Before we move on to our next knot. And the next knot is a figure of 8 bend. So what we're going to do, we're taking the left hand cord, we're going to tie a figure of 8 knot. So we create a loop, we go all the way around the back, through to create a loose figure of 8. We'll now take the other cord and we're going to reproduce that knot in reverse. So we just follow the cord up through, we go round the back, keep them all nice and tidy so we can see where we're going. Around there, and then we're coming back through this loop here, so we have 2 figure of 8 knots tied round each other, which will gradually, if you work them up nice and gently, give you a nice, neat, strong knot. And being a figure of 8 knot should be relatively easy to undo. So I'm now just going to change over the ropes before we move on to the sheep bend. Okay, so we now moved over to a different piece of rope, which is obviously a lot thicker than this rope. And just to demonstrate, a reef knot doesn't work in this because of the difference in thickness. You try to tie a knot like that, and no matter what you do, trying to keep the knot in it, it will not tighten up. So we use a different knot for this. We use a sheep bend. So we form a bite in the rope by doubling it over. We take the working end of the thinner cord that goes up through the bite, it goes around the back, and then we lift that cord there and pass it through, so it crosses over the front. Now this isn't going to work very well because the difference is too great, but we'll show you. So that'll tighten up like that, but the reason we wouldn't use this is that can still skid, and it's opening up. A variation on this to make the knot far more secure and allows you to use cords of far greater thicknesses and difference in thicknesses is double tubes. We keep the bite, we go up, we go round once, we then form a second turn around the thick piece of rope like that. We then lift that and pass through there, tighten it up, and what we're going to do is we're just going to work this nice and neatly up towards the end. The rope's pinched together. I'm now putting a lot of pressure on that. It's not skidding, it's not slipping, and that's holding really secure. And that's a nice rope if you've got nice knot if you've got two significantly different thicknesses joined together.